A man I'd never seen before sat down across from me at the coffee shop and slid his phone toward me. "Your husband has been sleeping with my wife for 8 months," he said. Then he leaned back, studied my face and added, "I think we should have dinner tonight." I looked at the photo on his screen, my husband's hand on another woman's waist, and said, "Yes." That single word changed everything. Before we continue, I want to thank you for being here. If you believe in choosing yourself and finding real love after betrayal, please consider subscribing. It's free and helps us reach more people who need to hear this. Now, let's see what happened next. My name is Sarah. I'm 36 years old. And this is the story of how a stranger destroyed my marriage and saved my life. To understand how I ended up saying yes to a man I'd known for 30 seconds, I need to take you back to the beginning. Back to when I still believed in the life I thought I was living. I met my husband 9 years ago at a friend's birthday party in Lincoln Park. I was 27, working as an ER nurse at Northwestern Memorial, exhausted from a 12-hour shift but too loyal to skip my best friend's 30th birthday. He was 29, a junior associate at one of the biggest corporate law firms in Chicago. He walked up to me at the bar while I was ordering a vodka soda and said, "You look like you've had the kind of day that requires something stronger than that." I laughed despite myself. "You have no idea." We talked for 3 hours. He asked questions about my work, actually listened to the answers, remembered details I mentioned in passing. By the time the party ended, he'd asked for my number. By our third date, I knew I was falling for him. Within 2 years, we were married in a small ceremony at the Chicago Botanic Garden, surrounded by family and friends who told us we were perfect for each other. The early years felt like winning the lottery. My husband was attentive, thoughtful, present. He'd pick me up from night shifts with coffee and breakfast sandwiches. He'd leave notes in my scrubs pockets that I'd find during breaks. We'd spend Sunday mornings in bed, talking about everything, planning our future, dreaming about the house we'd buy, the kids we'd have. We bought a brownstone in Bucktown after his second promotion. 3 bedrooms because we planned to fill them with children eventually. A backyard where we imagined birthday parties and summer barbecues. Our friends envied us. They'd say things like, "You two just work, and I hope I find what you have someday." I believed them. I believed we'd figured out something other couples hadn't. But somewhere around year 5, things started to shift. My husband made partner at the firm, which came with more money but also 80-hour weeks and constant pressure. I got promoted to charge nurse, which meant better pay but also more responsibility, more stress, more nights when I came home too exhausted to do anything but collapse into bed. We stopped making time for each other. Date nights became scheduling conflicts. Weekend trips disappeared entirely. Our conversations shrunk down to logistics. Whose turn to pick up groceries? Whether the mortgage payment had cleared. What time his work dinner would end. The intimacy faded so gradually I barely noticed until it was almost gone. We went from making love 3 times a week to once a month to almost never. We stopped touching each other with intention. Our bedroom became a place where we slept on opposite sides of a king-size bed, careful not to accidentally make contact in the middle of the night. I told myself it was normal. Every marriage goes through phases. We just needed to push through the rough patch and things would get better. The rough patch never ended. It became our new normal. About 8 months ago, I started noticing things. My husband joined a new gym near his office. Started working out during lunch breaks, he said. He changed his phone passcode without mentioning it. Started taking calls in the other room. Kept his phone face down on every surface, screen always hidden. He bought new cologne I never saw him wear at home. Started dressing better for work. Got his hair cut more frequently. Little changes that added up to something I didn't want to examine too closely. When I suggested we take a vacation, just the 2 of us, reconnect somewhere warm, he said work was too demanding. When I planned a date night at the restaurant where we had our first anniversary dinner, he canceled 2 hours before because of an emergency client meeting. When I asked if everything was okay between us, he got defensive. Said I was being paranoid, creating problems where there weren't any. So I stopped asking. I started doubting myself instead. Maybe I'd let myself go. Maybe I wasn't interesting enough anymore. Maybe if I tried harder, lost weight, wore more makeup, cooked better dinners, he'd come back to me. I didn't realize I'd already lost him. I was just the last one to find out. That's how I ended up spending my Wednesday afternoons at a coffee shop in Wicker Park instead of going home after my shift. Our brownstone felt too quiet, too full of all the things we weren't saying to each other. Here, surrounded by strangers and the hum of espresso machines, I could pretend everything was fine. My best friend kept telling me something was wrong. She'd noticed how I smiled less, talked about my marriage less, made excuses when she suggested double dates. But I brushed her off every time, insisted everything was fine, defended my husband against accusations she never actually made. I was afraid of what I'd find if I looked too closely, afraid the whole thing would unravel. Then the stranger sat down across from me and pulled the thread himself. After he showed me that photo, my husband with his hand on another woman's waist, standing outside a restaurant I'd never heard of, looking at her with a tenderness I hadn't seen directed at me in over a year. Everything clicked into place. The late nights. The new gym. The cologne. The defensive reactions. The distance. 8 months. The stranger said 8 months. That meant my husband had started this affair right around the time I noticed things changing. Right around the time he stopped trying. I stared at the photo, feeling something crack open in my chest. Not heartbreak exactly. Something colder. Clearer. The marriage was already over. My husband had ended it without telling me. I was just the last to know. How do you know who I am? I managed to ask. The stranger leaned back slightly, giving me space to process. I hired a private investigator after I found receipts in my wife's car 3 months ago. Restaurant charges, hotel charges. All paid in cash that didn't match any withdrawals from our joint accounts. She'd been careful, but not careful enough. He paused, watching my face. The investigator followed her for 6 weeks. Got photos, timestamps, locations. Your husband's name came up. Your address too. Why are you telling me this? Because I spent 3 months being the only one who knew what was happening in my own marriage. His voice was steady, but I could hear the anger underneath. And I figured you deserved the truth too. I should have thanked him. Should have gathered my things and left, should have gone home to confront my husband like a rational adult. Instead, I sat there watching my carefully constructed life crumble around me. The stranger watched me for a moment. Then his expression shifted. Something that looked almost like mischief crossed his face. I have a reservation tonight at a restaurant in River North, he said. My wife was supposed to join me before I found out she's been spending her evenings elsewhere. I'd hate to waste it. Would you like to come? Every rational thought in my head said no. This was insane. I should go home, demand answers, call a lawyer, process this betrayal like a responsible person. But I was tired of being responsible. Tired of being the wife who waited patiently at home while her husband built a secret life with someone else. Tired of doubting myself and ignoring my instincts. Yes, I said. The stranger's mouth curved into a genuine smile. Good. Gibson's, 7 o'clock. I'm Daniel, by the way. He stood, pulled a business card from his wallet, wrote something on the back, slid it across the table to me. Then he walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. I sat there for another 20 minutes staring at his card. His name, his phone number, and underneath in neat handwriting. You deserve better than being someone's backup plan. Something shifted inside me. Not quite hope. Not quite anger. Something in between. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt awake. After Daniel left, I pulled out my phone and did something I'd never done before. I opened the location sharing app my husband and I had set up years ago, back when we still cared about coordinating our schedules, back when we still wanted to know where the other one was. I rarely checked it anymore. Hadn't had a reason to. The app loaded. A map of Chicago appeared with a blue dot representing my husband's phone. He should have been at his office in the Loop. Middle of a Wednesday afternoon. Important meetings, he'd said this morning. Probably working late again. The blue dot wasn't in the Loop. It was at a residential address in Gold Coast. A high-rise building on Lakeshore Drive. The kind of place successful, single professionals lived. My stomach twisted. I closed the app, packed up my laptop, left money on the table, walked out into the October afternoon. The air was cold, that sharp Chicago wind cutting through my jacket. I started walking without a destination, just needing to move, to do something with the energy building inside me. I ended up at the lakefront, staring out at the gray water, the skyline behind me, the city I'd built my life in stretching in every direction. I thought about all the times over the past 8 months when my husband had been distant, irritable, dismissive, All the times I'd blamed work stress. All the times I'd made excuses for him, defended him, told myself I was imagining things. He checked out of our marriage because he was building something else with someone else. And I'd made it easy by never asking hard questions. I thought about the gift I'd found 2 months ago while looking for batteries in his desk drawer. A jewelry box from a boutique downtown, empty. I'd asked about it casually. He said it was for a client, a thank you gift for a big account. I believed him because the alternative was too painful. Now I knew he'd bought jewelry for her. While I was at home waiting for him, cooking dinners he barely touched, planning date nights he kept canceling. The anger hit me then. Not the explosive kind. Something colder, more deliberate. He'd made a fool of me. For 8 months. My phone buzzed. A text from my husband. Running late tonight. Client dinner. Don't wait up. The casual lie, delivered so smoothly, like he'd been practicing it for months. Because he had been. I typed back, no problem. Take your time. Then I put my phone away and made a decision. I wasn't going to confront him tonight. Wasn't going to cry or beg for explanations or give him the chance to lie to my face again. Instead, I was going to go home, put on something that made me feel beautiful, and meet Daniel at that restaurant. Maybe it was reckless. Maybe it was revenge. Maybe it was the worst decision I could make. But it was my decision. For once, I was choosing something for myself. I drove home to our brownstone in Bucktown. My husband's car wasn't there, of course. He was probably still at her apartment in Gold Coast, living his secret life while I'd been staring at the lake trying to process the wreckage of my marriage. The house looked the same as always. Brick facade, window boxes I'd planted with mums last month, the front porch where we used to sit on summer evenings. It looked like a home. Like a place where two people loved each other. Appearances lie. I went inside, walked through the room slowly, seeing everything with new eyes, wedding photos on the mantel. Furniture we'd picked out together. Books we'd bought on trips, inside jokes we'd collected over 9 years of knowing each other. All of it felt like evidence of something that used to be real but wasn't anymore. I climbed the stairs to our bedroom, opened my husband's nightstand drawer. Inside was exactly what I expected. Breath mints. Expensive cologne in a bottle I'd never seen him use at home. A leather planner I'd never noticed before. I opened the planner. Inside were dates and times written in his precise handwriting. Abbreviations that made my stomach turn once I figured them out. L. 7 p.m. The restaurant where Daniel's investigator had photographed them. A. Noon. Her apartment. Probably. P. Weekend. The Peninsula Hotel downtown. A weekend 3 months ago when he told me he had a conference in Milwaukee. He'd been keeping a log. Scheduling his affair around his real life. Around me. I put the planner back. Closed the drawer. Then I went to his closet, reached up to the top shelf where he kept things he didn't use often. Old files, college memorabilia, boxes of random things. My fingers found a shoebox pushed toward the back. Different from the others. Newer. I pulled it down, sat on the edge of our bed, opened it. Hotel receipts. Dozens of them. Different hotels across Chicago. Dates going back 9 months. Not 8 like Daniel said. 9. The affair had started even earlier than he knew. Beneath the receipts was a card on expensive stationery. Handwritten in elegant script. Every moment with you feels like coming home. I can't wait for the day we don't have to hide anymore. All my love. L. She had a name that started with L. She wrote love letters to my husband. She was waiting for the day they could stop hiding. Which meant she was waiting for him to leave me. I put everything back in the box. Put the box back on the shelf. Then I walked to my closet and pulled out a dress I hadn't worn in 2 years. Deep red, elegant, the kind of dress that makes you feel powerful. My husband used to love this dress. Used to tell me I looked stunning every time I wore it. I'd stopped wearing it because he'd stopped noticing. I put on makeup for the first time in months. Did my hair. Added jewelry. When I looked in the mirror, I saw someone I barely recognized. Not because I looked different but because she looked alive. She looked like someone who'd stopped waiting for permission to exist. I texted Daniel. See you at 7. His response came within seconds. I'll be at the bar. Gibson's was exactly the kind of restaurant I expected. Dark wood, white tablecloths, the smell of expensive steak and old money. I spotted Daniel at the bar in a charcoal suit that fit him perfectly. When he saw me walk in, his whole face changed. Not polite acknowledgement. Real pleasure. When was the last time my husband had looked at me like that? You came, Daniel said. Did you think I wouldn't? I thought there was a 50-50 chance you'd go home, confront your husband, and decide I was just some crazy person who ambushed you at a coffee shop. I considered it. I sat down beside him. But then I found the evidence myself. Hotel receipts going back 9 months. Love letters from someone whose name starts with L. Something flickered across Daniel's face. Lauren, he said quietly. My wife's name is Lauren. 9 months, I said. Not 8. She lied to you too. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he signaled the bartender, ordered us both drinks. We took them to a private table in the corner, away from the crowd. Tell me about her, I said. Lauren. Daniel stared at his glass. We met in college. Been together 14 years, married for 10. She's a marketing executive. Driven. Ambitious. I always admired that about her. What happened? I don't know exactly. We grew apart, I guess. She got more focused on her career. I got more focused on building my restaurant. We stopped talking about anything that mattered. He met my eyes. Sound familiar? Painfully. I found out 3 months ago. Receipts in her purse that didn't make sense. Started paying attention to things I'd been ignoring. The late nights. The new gym membership. The way she'd take her phone to the bathroom. Why did you wait 3 months to tell me? Because I needed to be sure. And because. He paused. I wanted to give her a chance to tell me herself. Stupid. I know. She never did. We talked for hours. About our marriages, our careers, our disappointments. About the lives we'd imagined versus the ones we were actually living. Daniel told me about his restaurant, how he'd built it from nothing, how Lauren had always thought he should sell it and do something more prestigious. I told him about nursing, about the long shifts and the emotional toll and how I'd thrown myself into work as my marriage deteriorated. Around 11 we walked out into the cold Chicago night. The city sparkled around us, beautiful and indifferent to our pain. Thank you, I said. For telling me. For tonight. You're not going to confront him tonight, are you? No. I'd made that decision hours ago. I'm going to go home, sleep in the guest room, and deal with this tomorrow when I'm ready. Daniel nodded. Whatever you decide to do, you have my number. Use it if you need anything. I drove home in silence. The brownstone was dark. My husband wasn't back yet. Probably still with Lauren, living the life he actually wanted while I'd been sitting at home believing his lies. I slept in the guest room that night. Didn't even try to pretend anymore. The next morning, I heard my husband come in around 7. Heard him walk past the guest room, pause briefly, then continue to our bedroom. I got up, got dressed, walked downstairs to find him in the kitchen making coffee like nothing was wrong. You slept in the guest room, he said without turning around. I did. Any particular reason? I watched him for a moment. The practiced casualness. The complete lack of concern. He genuinely thought he'd gotten away with it. I know about Lauren, I said. He froze. The coffee pot stopped mid-pour. I know about the apartment in Gold Coast. The hotels. The 9 months of lies. My voice was steady, calmer than I expected. Her husband told me everything. My husband turned around slowly. His face had gone pale. Her husband? Daniel. He hired a private investigator. Found photos, receipts, timestamps. Then he found me. How long have you known? Since yesterday afternoon, right around the time you were at her apartment instead of at work. He set down the coffee pot. Ran a hand through his hair. We need to talk about this. No, we don't. Please. His voice cracked. It was a mistake. I was stressed. I was confused. Don't. I held up a hand. Don't tell me it was a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up dry cleaning. What you did was a choice. You made that choice every single day for 9 months. I love you, Sarah. No, you don't. I was surprised by how certain I sounded. You love having me as your backup plan, someone to come home to when Lauren is too busy. Someone to keep your life looking respectable while you do whatever you want. That's not fair. What's not fair is spending 9 months lying to my face. What's not fair is making me think I was crazy for noticing something was wrong. What's not fair is letting me believe I wasn't good enough when the truth is you just wanted someone else. He stared at me. I watched the realization dawn on his face that this wasn't going to end with tears and forgiveness, that I wasn't going to beg him to stay. What do you want? He asked quietly. A divorce. The word hung in the air. Final. Irreversible. Sarah, please. We can work through this. Couples therapy, whatever you need. I'll end things with Lauren today. I'll quit the firm if that's what it takes. You had 9 months to choose me. I picked up my keys from the counter. 9 months to decide our marriage was worth saving. You chose her. Every single day, you chose her. Now I'm choosing me. Where are you going? I'm going to stay with my friend until I figure out next steps. I'll have a lawyer contact you about the house. Can we at least talk about this? Please? I stopped at the door. Turned back to look at him one last time. There's nothing left to talk about. You ended this marriage 9 months ago. I'm just making it official. I walked out of the brownstone, got in my car, and drove away. I didn't cry. Didn't feel the devastation I'd expected. Instead, I felt something unexpected. Relief. The pretending was over. The doubting myself was over. The waiting around for someone who'd already left was over. I called my friend from the car. Told her everything. She said she'd have the guest room ready when I arrived. Then I called Daniel. I told him, I said, I'm leaving. There was a pause. How do you feel? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Free, I said. I feel free. Good. I could hear him smile through the phone. That's how it should feel. I drove toward my friend's house, toward the next chapter of my life, toward whatever came next. Behind me, the brownstone got smaller in my rearview mirror. The life I'd built there, the dreams I'd had, the person I'd been. All of it fading into the distance. And ahead of me, for the first time in years, something that felt like possibility. My husband called 17 times that day. Left voicemails full of apologies and promises and desperate pleas for another chance. I didn't answer. I didn't need to hear it. Some things once broken, can't be fixed. And some people, once they show you who they really are, don't deserve a second chance to lie to you again. 6 months later, the divorce was final. I kept nothing from the marriage except the lessons it taught me. About trusting my instincts. About demanding honesty. About knowing my worth even when someone else forgot it. Daniel and I stayed in touch. What started as 2 broken people helping each other became something else. Something real. Something built on honesty instead of secrets. But that's another story. The one I needed to tell you today is simpler. Your gut knows before your head does. When something feels wrong, it usually is. And the only person who can save you from a life that's making you small is you. My husband thought he could have everything. The respectable wife at home, the exciting affair on the side. He thought I'd never find out, or that if I did, I'd forgive him anyway. He was wrong about all of it. The day a stranger sat down across from me and told me the truth was the day my old life ended. It was also the day my real life began. If you're going through something similar, if you're reading this and recognizing pieces of your own story, I want you to know something. You deserve honesty. You deserve someone who chooses you every single day, not just when it's convenient. You deserve to feel alive in your own life. Not like a guest in someone else's. And if the person you're with can't give you that, you have the right to walk away. No matter how long you've been together. No matter what anyone else thinks. No matter how scary it feels. Because life is too short to be someone's backup plan. Trust me. I learned that the hard way. And I've never been happier that I did.